Hello and welcome to tonight's Zoomcast entitled Becoming an Entrepreneur. This is William Todd from Bend, Oregon, and with me on the screen tonight, Mike DiMuccio from Toronto, Canada, and Rick Murphy from Austin, Texas. Good evening, gentlemen.
Awesome. Good to have you. Awesome to be here.
I just was going over my notes, and we've got a short period of time with so much to cover, but it's a very exciting time here for me in April because I love springtime. The leaves are starting to bloom, and this Sunday is a very special day for me. That's the actual day I became an entrepreneur 21 years ago.
Wow.
I just found this the other day. This is my articles of incorporation on April 12th of 1994,
Wow.
before there was an internet.
Wow.
And so, I looked today at Wikipedia and defining entrepreneurship, and it says, entrepreneurship is the process of starting a business or other organization, and the entrepreneur develops a business model, acquires the human and other required resources, and is fully responsible for its success or failure. And, I just want to go back to this 1994 date because I can't believe how big of a day that was for me. I named my company Worldwide Resources, Inc. And I remember somebody asked me back then, what are you thinking about Worldwide Resources? I said, I'm thinking about just that. I love to travel. And so one day I'd like to have worldwide resources. How? I don't know. When? I don't know. But I just know if I put it out there that there's a good chance that would happen. And so 21 years later, guess what? Worldwide Resources is an entrepreneur. And I'm so thrilled to be able to, introduce two very highly qualified entrepreneurs in Rick and Mike. So the first question that I want to put out there, Mike, to you is, now I came from a background of, I really love to earn money. It started with a paper route when I was very young. I remember mowing lawns, shoveling snow out of driveways. I remember sorting bottles at the Coca-Cola plant. I remember just any side job I could get. I was always the guy at the bowling alley with, $90 in my pocket to play pinball and, having all the friends just say, wow, you've always got the money in your pocket. I like that. I enjoyed work in that regard. As I got older, though, and I started to work my way up into the construction industry, I found out that there was a lot more money to be made. Like I could, have my own place and rent, and then I leased, and then I looked at buying my own place. And what was amazing was it seemed like I was running out of time. At one point, I was going into the office. I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning to be at the office at 5:45, and I wasn't getting home until 7 o'clock at night. And then the boss started asking me to start working Saturday mornings. And I realized, I'm not getting any more of these dollars in my pocket, and I'm running out of time. And so when the decision was made that, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, I decided that entrepreneur was my destination. And again, I didn't know how, but I just knew if I surrounded myself with people smarter than me that had experience in entrepreneurship, everything would be okay. How did the story go for you, Mike? What was, I don't know if you have a date of your incorporation, but how did it all come about?
William, I was not exactly looking to be an entrepreneur. In fact, when I graduated university, because I did what most people do, if you're good at school and you're encouraged to get an education, I went and did the thing that I felt most comfortable with. And that was, going to school. So I got my degree, and while I was in the middle of that, a number of things happened. I became fascinated with music, and I was recording and started working in that, and things happened. I got a recording contract. I knew I wasn't looking to be an entrepreneur. In fact, when I graduated, my father's partner in his, my dad had a very successful business. They had 5 factories, and he offered me to come in as a partner, just like he came in with my father, to take over the business, so to speak, and carry on the tradition. And I worked in that job. I worked in my dad's factory during the summers, and I knew I didn't want that. I didn't want that life. So I knew I didn't want to be a business owner in the traditional sense, because I knew what that looked like from that perspective, and I didn't want that. However, music offered the idea of, flexibility and being a famous recording artist, et cetera. That sounded really exciting and really promising. And And most important, it gave the lifestyle that I was interested in. In fact, one of the shows that I grew up watching on TV all the time was Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I don't know if you even know that.
Oh, yeah. Robin Leach.
Yeah, kind of dating us. But yeah, so that featured lives of people who are well known, and that kind of lifestyle appealed to me. And I didn't see that in my life. I didn't know who had that kind of lifestyle. The people that I saw who had jobs didn't have it. The people that I saw that had businesses really didn't have it. Maybe they had some more money and they had some more toys, but I didn't really see the lifestyle. And so I wasn't looking for that. I was sort of going in the direction of where my heart was leading me, and music was where it was taking me. So I ended up getting a recording contract. That kind of fell apart. And then I ended up doing just the opposite, getting a job, working for a friend. You know, just that was so, I mean, I fell into it. I was just helping a friend out for the summer. 3 years later, there I am, an electrician, 3 crews, you know, doing the electrical. You like the lights in here? I know how to do that. I didn't. So that's what my life became. I sort of fell into the job, and making my best year was about $29,000. So I wasn't actually looking to be an entrepreneur, but then I discovered it almost as a happening.
So Rick, you go down to Austin, Texas. Rick, same question. I mean, you know, we just woke up one day, and what happened?
Well, I tell you, similar to Mike, my father and mother and grandparents owned a Ben Franklin store in a town of 3,000 people.
Wow.
And it was like five and dime, and my grandfather had owned it for 30 years. What was interesting, though, is nobody in the family had a lot of money, so my dad ended up in Vietnam, couldn't, you know, at college and all those sorts of things. In fact, everybody in my town pretty much ended up in Vietnam or farming or in the shops up in the Quad Cities. I grew up in a town called Aledo, Illinois. They all worked at Farm All, International Harvester Case. So they were all working people. And we owned a little store in the town where people came to the five and dime. And, you know, that was kind of the hub of the little town. And my dad worked 7 days a week. We took one vacation in the whole 17 years I was growing up because we had to be at the store. And guess who was the stock boy, the trash emptier? Guess who my dad? Now I'm such a stickler on working hard and doing things to perfection. And I was the kid that my dad had to follow me around yelling at me because I did a half job around the store all the time and all those funny stories. I also detasseled corn, baled hay, slopped hogs. I've hot tarred roofs. I've done every blue collar I've had hip waders on, doing every horrible job in the world, like William was talking about. I worked in a steel mill part-time, working big hydraulic presses, making hinges, all that stuff.
Is there anything you didn't do?
No, well, you know what's stupid? I've done a lot of dumb little things because I was always looking for something. I'm a terrible employee, but I like new stuff. So, you know, so I would always try new jobs. When I was a junior in high school, a Walmart moved in on the outside of our hometown, and we lost everything.
Wow.
My father had to go on the road to get a job. My mother had to leave 30 miles away, where the only place she could get a job. Left 3 kids. I was only 15. My brother and sister were younger than I. And because of that, going to college, all of our college funds and life insurances, everything were cashed in so our families could survive. And on my 17th birthday, I went and enlisted in the Army because that was the only thing I could really do. My parents ended up living in my grandparents' basements for the better part of a year with my junior and high school sister and my about 10-year-old brother. So the Army was the option for me. And I took to the Army like a duck to water. I love my country. I would have made that my career. I had a little mishap in a place called the Wadi Al-Batin, and I'll spare you that long story. But what I did in the military, I was injured to the point when I was no longer able to do that job and got out. And I went to college, and I had nothing. I owned absolutely nothing because when I was deployed to the Middle East, they didn't pack my stuff up. They took all my clothing. My car wasn't packed up right. I was gone for a year. So I literally had nothing. My grandfather gave me $5,000 to buy a car so I could get out of the Army. And I drove to Michigan where my parents had relocated, and I was in their house not knowing what to do. I remember I broke down in tears in the driveway just wanting to go back to the Army. And my mom said, just go down to the college.
How long ago was this, Rick?
This was in 1992, excuse me.
Okay, same time.
And I went down to the college, and I walked in, and all I owned was the uniform from the Army because I had no clothes. And the guy that was the dean of admissions was there, and he said, "What are you doing, Sergeant Murphy?" And I told him, and he was in the same unit as Vietnam as what I was in the Middle East. And he stamped my application approved on the spot. And I had to pick a major right there that day. So I picked computer information systems because it paid the most. I didn't even ask if I would like it. It's coming out of the military. I didn't ask if I would like it. So here's me. I love to go to the gym. I was in competitive bodybuilding. I was a certified trainer when I was in the Army. I was on the GI Bill. I would go to hockey games, play Xbox or Sega at the time with my buddies, go to the gym in the morning. Next thing and I didn't have a lot of money, but see, I didn't grow up with money. To us, it was being free. My dad didn't owe anybody anything, although we worked for the store. So I never was able to be subjected to being somebody else's droogie, So when I was in corporate, I was so shocked. Back in the 90s, you could make a six-figure income if you could spell the word computer because of all the Y2K projects. I ended up being an enterprise-wide information management specialist, and I used to design client-server networks to replace legacy mainframe systems. Okay. And what that meant was, William, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning to beat first shift in Detroit where I started working. I would sleep in my car for a half hour because you couldn't be on the roads in Detroit at 7 in the morning. I would get off at 6 at night because it was long days. I was working out at the gym at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And I remember being super depressed thinking, and I'll tell you more about my downsizing people at that job that broke my heart because I was taking the employment away from the people that I grew up with by being a software engineer. More on that in a minute. And I remember literally feeling sick to my stomach on Sunday morning thinking about the week, thinking I'm making six figures in my 20s and I absolutely hate this. And I started looking I was going to buy a franchise. I looked at buying a Chick-fil-A till they told me I needed $1 million liquid. And I said, the only thing that an Irishman has $1 million liquid is his lifetime bar bill. So I knew I would get that bad. So I looked into buying a Burger King. I was a West Michigan coordinator for a U.S. Senate race, and I thought,
are you starting to taste some entrepreneurship at this point? Like you wanted to take control?
I had to. I was dying in corporate because I was miserable, and I had a lot of, when you're not from a lot of money and you're making $100,000 a year in your 20s, you got it made, and that was the most miserable period of my life. And so I was looking to go into politics. I was going to run for office, go to Washington. I was going to buy a Burger King. When someone brought me Nikken, I want you guys to know this clearly, and this is important. I thought network marketing, to quote one of Mike's old partners, was a step below purse snatching. I have been invited to meetings where they wouldn't tell me what it was. 2 weeks before I got introduced to Nikken, I got invited to a meeting, and they didn't tell me the name of the company, and I was so mad I stormed out. The Nikken video that brought me into this company sat on my desk for a couple of months. I made fun of the guy that gave it to me until one day I watched it so that I could actually tell him why it was going to be stupid.
This is a VHS, I take it.
Yeah, VHS tape. And so my entrepreneurial path, I really want you guys to know this. Network marketing wasn't even on the list of things I wasn't going to do.
So first of all, thank you for your service. Yeah. Before I forget.
Thanks, man.
Mike, the founder of Dropbox, the CEO, Drew Houston, says, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once. Whenever the opportunity knocked, and this idea of entrepreneurship came in, did fear creep into your mind, Mike? Was that something that you like, what are other people going to think? Or what if I fail? Or, what do I tell people if I try something that doesn't work? Did that creep into your subconscious?
Well, I think that happened naturally because I was totally out of my element. I mean, first and foremost, I was an aerospace engineer. So what did I get that for? I could just hear the voice of my father in my head. My son, the engineer, and now the electrician, and now the magnet salesman. I mean, it was just, so yeah, there's a lot of pressure there. But at the same time, there was so much enthusiasm and excitement for the future, for what I saw as a possibility that I could be out of the rat race. It could be my ticket to freedom and the life that I wanted. It was, there's risk involved in stepping out of the box. There's risk involved in stepping out of the path that has been paved for us by many generations before us. But there's a greater risk, I feel, in underliving my potential, in not being or ending up the person that I see myself as. I don't think I could live with that consequence. And so for me, I don't think I really had a choice, William. I didn't have the same strategy working for me. I didn't have a lot of money coming in that I had all these options. I really didn't have any options. When I was first, in fact, I remember the day I went to register my company, Good Vibrations International. I had a T-shirt lying on the bed that I was going to wear. It was a T-shirt my sister gave me. And it had these guys dancing, and it said, we be shaking good vibrations, something like that. And I thought, that's a great name for a company, Good Vibrations. So that's what I did. Went downtown.
So all that money spent to become an aerospace engineer, you come up with a company name from a T-shirt laying on the bed.
Exactly. It was crazy.
Was it at least a clean T-shirt?
Well, it was actually, but it kind of made sense. The Good Vibrations, the Beach Boys theme music, kind of good vibes being,
nice.
A really positive energy thing. And so I saw my, like you have a vision for your company, I have a vision for mine, which is to create good vibrations.
Okay. Follow-up question to that, Mike. Was there a struggle?
I mean, the biggest hurdle is not so much what it takes to succeed. It's the 6 inches between our ears. The struggle that we go through, undoing who we think we are. We take on a lot of stuff when we're born, when we're raised. We take on, the identity and the personality and the culture and all the belief systems of all the people that have preceded us and carry the tradition of being whatever it is that we say we are to the world. And so all of a sudden, when you step out of that and you start to wear this new identity, and it's the hardest thing I think in the world to do is to switch identities or to modify your identity. Really what I see the evolution of consciousness is the advancement of someone into the entrepreneurial world, is that you're letting go of a bunch of stuff that are holding you back.
Yep.
Traditions and ideas that are popular, but you know what? Who wants to be popular? Honestly, it's popular to be broke, sick, and miserable. I do not want to be popular.
No.
Rick, quick question. I always have this picture in my mind of a young entrepreneur as like a kid dressed, not professionally, and eating ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sleeping under his desk. And how do you define yourself as an entrepreneur? Like if somebody was to walk up to you and start a conversation and say, Rick, what do you do? And you said, well, I'm an entrepreneur. How would you define that? What actually do you do?
Well, what's funny is first of all, there's just such a great power. Our government here in Canada, and we share the same basic philosophy. And this is part of who I was when I was a little boy. I grew up at the VFW serving fish with my dad for all the years. Wow. Being, the Constitution guaranteed us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But unless you've got money and health and time, you can't exercise that right. Steve Jobs, when he had cancer and died, couldn't exercise his rights the Constitution gave him. And folks, if you're making $1 more or $1 less than your bills, you're not able to exercise your liberty. So just because you're guaranteed, this is what Americans don't understand. Everybody wants to be free, but you know what? Are they willing to do what it takes to be free? So all of us have a piece of paper that guarantees your liberty, and you think that makes you free. Folks, if you're up to your neck in mortgage payments, you've got a job you can't stand and you're afraid you're going to lose it. That's like your friend that's dating someone that says, they're so mean to me. And you say, well, just leave them, with all your easy advice, as you go to a job and say, they're so mean to me. And then you're there for 37,000 years. For me, the fear of being an entrepreneur, I think because of my background with owning our own store, I always felt like I was destined to do that. I had a bigger fear of being the guy with a chrome dome and a giant belly eating M&Ms and drinking Diet Coke and working 60 hours a week when I was 45. And by the way, I'm 44 now. At that time, I was in my 20s. I looked around the office. There weren't a lot of fitness models in the office that were. They all looked like they were about ready to fall apart. And I remember looking around the office being horrified. And I remember I just thought to myself, I can't do that. So when you say, how do I define what I do? The real thing for me, you guys, and I think this is going to speak to a lot of people that are probably my age and younger, is I never had Ferraris growing up. I like to have nice things, and I'm married to a wife that I want us to have nice things. And if we want, my son wanted a new Xbox One here. The thing was $500. I didn't have to put it on layaway. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like. I'm not going to trade in, like bolts of homemade material to buy it. We're able to just walk in there and have the scratch to do it. So money's a tool. Here's what I like. I don't want anybody messing with me. My wife and I, before the baby, they'd say, when are you going to get up in the morning? We say, when we're finished. And that doesn't mean that we don't work hard, but it means I would rather work an 80-hour week for myself and my family and my dreams than work a 40-hour week so you can live in Florida in your vacation home. It's not really a tough decision to say, I choose to exercise my liberty by having the mechanism that I'm not just guaranteed rights on paper that I don't have in practice, but to set events in motion to where the liberty that people died to give me. Guys, millions and hundreds of thousands of people, and forget about America, around the world right now, people are dying to be free, to have the rights that you wake up every morning and don't even think about. I just want to ask, to be an entrepreneur, you want to really know what that means? Are you willing to just live for your freedom? People are willing to die for it. You look at these guys in Yemen and all the things going on, 90% of those people, it's not about their religion. They're tired of someone pushing them around, and they're willing to go out there in their socks and with an AK-47 and fight so no one messes with their family. And all we have to do here in this country is just have enough money where the bank doesn't own you, the boss doesn't own you, the clock doesn't own you. My wife got in a car accident this morning, and if I would have been at work, I wouldn't have been able to leave and go help her out. And I was there within 5 minutes, and I was on the phone all day to get her squared away.
She okay?
My boy's crying, and being
okay?
an entrepreneur, I didn't have to beg somebody to go take care of him. That's what it means to me, William.
Is she okay?
Yeah, she is. She's stiff and sore, and we're still dealing with that. But, William, I didn't have to beg somebody to go take care of her and have someone go, I don't know, it's a busy day.
Or have you tell you to punch out the clock before you go, so you don't get paid.
That's exactly right. Or she's driving a 1968 Festiva. We can't afford to put her in something that actually has an airbag. And I mean that sincerely. I mean, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live the life where you don't have to ask anybody for permission to go take care of your elderly? Look, my parents are 68. Yeah. They're going to be older in 10 years. Guess who the ones that are going to be go over there? I already told my dad, I said, I'm just going to get you the thing in the backyard with the laundry line. You can run around the back. He laughs because I'm going to be the one out there taking care of them when everybody else has to be at work, right?
Rick, you're preaching to the choir right now. That's exactly what I have the freedom to do myself right now, is help out my parents. Mike, we spent half of the call here on why entrepreneurship. We're going to get into the how in just a second, but I'm reading this quote from Lloyd Blankfein, the chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs. And he says, we have seen firsthand that investing in women leads to economic growth and job creation, but there is clearly more than that can be done to unlock the potential of women-owned businesses. And just in the last 17 years, there's a staggering 68% increase since 1997, with more than 9.1 million women entrepreneurs in just this country alone, in America. And it's led to 1.5 trillion in revenue from those women-owned businesses. Now, women obviously play an enormous role in your company. I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, I know a lot of couples and a lot of single people, but we're three men on this call, but a lot of our success is driven by the women in our companies, correct?
Well, just from the statistics, over 75% of the people, the independent people that are working for themselves in their own businesses, but part of my organization, are women. And in many cases, these are women who are stepping out into the entrepreneurial revolution, the entrepreneurial experience for the first time. Some of them that I can think of had incredible educational backgrounds. Maybe they came from another country, were not able to apply themselves in this market. And so they're literally starting from zero. No contacts, no income stream. They're not able to do the vocation that they're trained for. And this is maybe for them the last resort, but they're able to leverage all the remarkable tools that we have at our disposal. So, and women are naturally gifted in terms of their ability to social network, to connect with other people and deal with human experiences on a more emotional level. I was reading a statistic actually just recently that 85% of all buying decisions are made as a result of word of mouth and reputation. And so who better than to promote word of mouth than women who naturally do so, are statistically proven to do so. So I think it's an amazing equal opportunity where in our industry, for instance, there are more women earning six figures in our industry than any other industry in the world. So if a woman had a real desire to succeed and become an entrepreneur and to have the quality of life that ordinarily, you might say in the traditional sense, is a man's world. This is the one place that there's a real equal opportunity for them, and they're going to be developed and supported like anyone would be. So it's a remarkable industry in that it's race blind, color blind, sex blind. You know, if you have the desire in your heart to make something of your life, then this is a vehicle in our industry of networking that allows people to really explore that potential of themselves within.
Yeah, and Rick, you know, yesterday around the world, and today around the world, and tomorrow around the world, $200 million were paid out in this industry that we're involved in. Every day, $200 million is paid out. And the majority of it, over 50% of it, is paid out to women. That's the success ratio. So you work this entrepreneurship in partnership in unison with your wife, Paige. So just talk to us a little bit about how that works. I mean, do you both do the same thing, or do you have different things that you guys task on a daily basis?
We have two very different roles. She does the deep thinking and I do the deep talking. Yeah, actually, we have a great time. My wife went to the University of Texas. She was a senior manager with Saks Fifth Avenue and fashion buyer. She had a great career with a really big income. She worked a few years once we had a strategy as a couple that some people don't have if they're single, is that I worked Nikan full time while she went out and did that and kept the traditional career. We've been home together now. I think this will be our 8th year or 7th year, one of the two full time together. And we're able to be two parents at home, a mom and a dad with a 2-year-old. So when I take him to school a couple days a week in the morning, they think I'm like unemployed or something when I walk in. She has to tell all the girlfriends, no, we work together. But, you know, we work together. Our check says Rick and Paige Murphy, Pathfinder's RPM, which is Rick and Paige Murphy at the end. I do some of the talking side of the business. She does a lot of our social media, although she does do a lot of talking in her interviews and stuff. We don't step on each other's toes. We do what we're both really good at. And we've learned over the years to have a chemistry to where we do things really great together. And there's some things we're both stronger on. I will tell you this, though, about women. My mom, you know, in the traditional family, the reason there's a lot of women attracted to being an entrepreneur, in the traditional, what's been around until the last 20, 30 years, if the husband was making $50,000 a year, he didn't have time to talk about $200 extra a week. It was the mom that had to find the gaps in the budget. That's how this industry got so filled with so many women that said, we have to have more money, and he's already doing 60 hours a week. What's changed over the last 20 years is the number of heads of households that are women. I can't tell you how many women, Paige and I know, that are in their 40s like us, that never thought they'd have to be a breadwinner, or they gave up their career 15 or 20 years ago to have a family, and then some dude decides he needs a Corvette. And then that's the end of it. And these ladies have been out of the workforce for 10 or 20 years or 15 years, or they've never had to be in the workforce. What are they supposed to do? Go show up and say, hey, I worked 10 years ago at AT&T, hire me. They're entry level, and they've got a family to support.
Okay.
And that's a fact. And for us, and I know I got to move on, this is an opportunity for women to not have to make those choices, to actually have a better life. And that's what we love about it as a family.
For sure. Okay, lightning rounds. We're going to transition into the how thing. So a few questions. We're all sitting in our homes. Do either one of you drive to an office tomorrow morning to do this entrepreneurship?
No.
You're sitting in your office.
Yeah, and my 2-year-old will be in here. I'm hoping my 2-year-old doesn't realize I'm in here, and he's going to bust in the door in any second now. So yes.
Okay, and how many employees are showing up to you guys' office in the morning?
0.
No, in fact, I have anti-employees. My son actually causes me more work, so he's the anti-employee.
Okay, and shipping, receiving, inventory, how much of that is in the house?
I don't have any inventory per se. I have some things that I have a little extra of because I like to have them to
some samples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or until I lose my own stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so some of the characteristics about an entrepreneur, I have a list here. Do you guys do what you enjoy doing? Is there any stress involved at this point?
The stress that's involved is good stress. It's the stress that I put myself under, to set goals and to reach for those goals, to strive. My mentor always taught me that I should never fear goals, that it's more about the person I become in achieving or seeking to achieve those goals than the goal itself. So that's the positive stress. I can't say that there's negative stress in running this business because there's not really a lot to run. When you're working with an organization of independent thinkers who have motivation from and inspired from their own ambitions and their own dreams, you're not having to crack the whip. You're just simply guiding. I'm here to assist and guide people, which is pretty simple, to learn how to do the things that I've done well, or to tweak some of the things that they're doing to be more productive in their business. So not a very hard thing.
Follow up to that point then, Mike. Rick, how accessible are you to other people that may want to learn from you or mentor with you, or have you teach what it is you know?
That's really my only job, is to help other people. That's the difference about here in corporate. You had to knock people out to take their job. And when I would take jobs in companies, I would have to fight like heck just to get any information because they didn't want me to know it. And it was really something to come over here where, like, we're all in different organizations. But, man, I talked to both of you guys a couple hours this week just about stuff. And there's several things you've both told me that I'll apply to our organization, and probably vice versa. And the best thing about the way that we work, you asked about the stress. This is a really big point. When I was a kid, my dad would say, go out and mow the yard. And it would be like trying to move a mountain. I would be out there sweating and breaking the lawnmower. And now that I have a yard, my wife and I will spend 12 hours out there on one begonia. I mean, it's what the stress you have here when you work for yourself is like, how many of you guys will do yard projects, house projects, all the things that when you were a teenager, you would just punish your parents. That's the difference between working for yourself and the stress here is, we have a project doing the yard, but it's not stressful. It's something we love.
So a listener out there is just saying, Mike, here's a guy that doesn't have cash registers, doesn't have an office, doesn't have any employees showing up, doesn't have a warehouse, but yet from the place where you're sitting right now conducts millions of dollars of sales in several countries around the world. And you're telling me that you could actually do that from a smart device, an iPhone, an iPad. I mean, and you could do it from the beaches of Barbados if you so choose, which by the way, I know you do. I know you do.
Next week. Exactly. Yeah.
So help the potential entrepreneur out there understand how this could be possible with no stress, no fear, no anxiety. I mean, it just doesn't sound real.
Okay. Well, consider a company like Amazon. For Amazon to be able to make good on its offering, it has to be able to deliver a product to a consumer. And so they've got an infrastructure that's set up globally to facilitate that. They've partnered with shipping companies, and they've built relationships, and they've got warehouses, and they've got inventory in these warehouses, or their suppliers are delivering on their behalf, et cetera. They've created an infrastructure to be able to fulfill a whole number of products to a consumer, but they're not actually out there creating the consumers. The awareness to establish that relationship had to come over a long, long period of time. But nonetheless, they have this infrastructure in place. Well, we have partnered with a company that has set up a global operation in 38 countries around the world. They've done this on their coin. They've done this with their labor of sweat and so forth. All of the traditional trappings of an organization, of a corporation, they've done all that. So what we are is independent of them, and we're the marketing. We're the ones who allow people to know that what they have available and help them make that connection to the company to be able to fulfill. The company will fulfill on our behalf. So all we really are is the mouthpiece, the marketing piece. For instance, on the internet, you can find pretty much everything. Anything is available on the internet. So where do you go to find something you don't know exists? Even though it's possibly available there, you're not going to be actually actively looking for something you don't know is out there. So how do you draw attention to it? Well, that's where we come in. We share with people information about what we know that they don't know about. And then we give them access to it because there's an online representation or presentation or offering where they can connect and order that product direct everywhere in 38 countries. So literally from this office right here with a telephone or anywhere when I'm on the road, I can help make that happen just by connecting people to the information.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Can I say one quick thing about that, William?
Absolutely.
For people that don't believe that you could actually work like this because they're so accustomed to, I've got to work 50 hours a week and I barely make it. And I get that, man. We were just talking, you've done all those jobs, William. You've been around working people. You had an electrician. If I went 150 years ago to somebody getting ready to take off from New York to go to California and they got the wagon loaded up, and I said, hey, man, you could be there in like 5 hours. Like, you are out of your mind. Yeah, all you got to do is just get in this big metal cylinder and sit there. And you'll be there in 4 hours. You'd say that is no possible way. Folks, times change.
Yeah.
Niken is the airline. They have built the plane, the landing strips. They have the people that fly it. They have the staff that cruise it. All we're responsible for is getting people on it so that we can fly together to California. That's what we do with Niken. We're just selecting a vehicle that just is a faster way to travel than being on foot. And if it blows your mind, I want you to think about if you're the guy walking next to the wagon with a big ox, shocked at the thought of an airplane.
So Mike, I got to bring this in for a landing. Speaking of planes, so last question to the both of you. You're intelligent, you're results orientated, you operate from a high level of awareness, you spend a lot of time working on what's between the ears, and I respect both of you for that. And you have great organizations. But being intelligent, being aware, and being switched on, you also know that there's more than one company to align yourself with. There's thousands of companies that you could align yourself with from all types of imaginable technologies and products and services. And I won't go down the list, but I know there's a lot. When you operate at that level of awareness, Mike, final question, give us 3 or 4 minutes on why you chose to align your company, your entrepreneurship, with that Amazon of a home-based business called Niken. What gives? What stood out? What is obvious to you now?
First and foremost, the thing that stood out was the fact that they have products and technology that moved people. In fact, moved people to tears at times. When you have something that's powerful, people can't help themselves but talk about it. When it's unique and there's nothing like it out there, it gives you something to talk about. People like to talk about stuff that is new or exciting and be sort of the person in the tribe that has some news or is newsworthy. It just kind of makes you feel good that you have something to offer, to share. So I saw immediately a product line and a technology that's since evolved into something even more superior that moved people, and it moved me, and it moved my father. Within a matter of minutes, it moved me, and then over 48 hours, I saw my dad go from limping to not limping, from absolute agony to no agony, to not having range of motion to full range of motion. I mean, it was stunning. And then when he called me and asked me if I could get some more for friends at work that had it, that's when I knew. I mean, you can sell just about anything to anybody. They might like it. They might tell somebody about it. But when you can help somebody feel good about themselves and take that discomfort away, they'll tell everyone about it. And that's what my dad was doing. So that was first and foremost a business that was being driven by the passion and the power of the technology and the products that was being offered. That means it was less about what I had to say and more about what the products did. I like that because it's easy to demonstrate something rather than sell something. So I like that immediately. The fact that it was unique in itself, again, a strategic advantage. But the thing that I think was the hook, line, and sinker for me was the philosophy that drives the company. That started at the very foundation and the foundation of the company from the founder himself, Isamu Masuda, who believed that in order for us to experience a rich life, a fulfilling life, we needed to experience balance in our life in the 5 key areas of our life. Our body, of course, mind, the way we look at life, the lens through which we look at life, family, which are our close personal relationships, our society, that's our role and how we participate and interact with what's going on in the world, our purpose, if you will, and finances. And so to have balance in all these 5 areas was a new definition of success that I'd never seen. All the definitions of success that I was in the hunt for and that, what media was presenting as what a successful person looks like, I saw a lot of successful people going down the drain, people with money and no life, or they lose their health in the process, or many people who worked all their life to make money and then they lose it all because their health is gone, or, so a combination of things, people no money, no time, people with money, but also no time or no relationships. That the definition that we've been after has not brought fulfillment to many, many people. And what I saw here was something that made sense all of a sudden, that if I pursue success in Niken, that means what I'm going to get as a byproduct is a more balanced life in all of the areas that are most important to me, because no one of these areas is less important than the other.
And before I go to Rick, in what period of time do you think it was from starting your entrepreneurial career until you did realize a balanced life? Was it 8 months, 8 years? When did you really start to see that I am living exactly what I'm out there,
it's a tough question to answer, because when you're in the pursuit of the thing that matters most to you, then every day that you're in that pursuit, by definition, is a success. Like Earl Nightingale said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. A worthy ideal is something you would trade your life for. So here I am every day for the last 23 years, trading my life for a better quality in each areas of my life and sharing that experience with others. So for me, balance is a daily occurrence. Yeah, there are times where I might be out of balance because I'm all on. And then there are times where I'm, all off. I'm going to Barbados for a week and I've got some things to do, like rest and take advantage of some sun. So, recharge. But it's available to me. It's not something that I have to fight for. It's something that I choose.
But you also get to take your multi-million-dollar entrepreneurship with you, right?
I'll be plugged in no matter what. But it's easier to make a phone call from the beach than it is from.
What's that background noise? So, Rick, I know we're running out of time. I've got so much that I still didn't even get to cover. We're going to have to do a part two. Here's an intelligent six-figure income earner in the technology industry of writing code or whatever you were doing there. I heard the title, but I can't remember it.
I can't either.
You had 1,000 choices to pick to align yourself with for your entrepreneurship. Again, you picked Nikin. Why?
Well, I'll tell you. And by the way, Mike, we're going to call you with three-way calls about every 45 minutes next week. So get ready. And we're going to tell they're all physicists too. I tell you, let me just tell you this. And they always say when you're going to trial, if you have the facts of the law on your side, you got to argue the facts of the law. My first meeting when I went, I thought we had both the facts and the law. At that point, I didn't understand the heart message yet. I remember sitting in that room and hearing, here's a 5A1 rated, multi-billion-dollar, multinational, biggest and only total wellness company. Now, let me say that. You can go buy Vites and magic hairsprays and things that make your teeth whiter than white, and your neighbor love you more than ever, and your blood pressure magically drop, and your lumbago will clear up, all the stuff on television. There's nobody that has a common sense, science-based sleep, water, air, rest, nutrition, one-stop shop for total wellness, where if you can sit, walk, breathe, eat, and drink, you can be healthy. No one has that. Guys, go look at any company in the industry, since you brought it up, why not other companies? Because it's a great way to work. Any company out there, I could walk into a GNC or a Whole Foods or a high-end health store and find something similar to their product or two products in any one of those stores. So I know if I build that network, in 5 years, I'm going to be calling my friends up about the next great thing. I would challenge any of you to look around the world, anywhere of any size, and find me another total wellness company anywhere. And then I'm going to ask you this question. How do you think, not what do I think, use your own head. How do you think a multi-billion-dollar multinational, biggest and only total wellness company is going to do stepping into the world's richest, sickest markets unopposed? I don't think it takes a seance of Milton Friedman to figure that one out. This thing is going to be huge. And I knew that in my first meeting. I remember thinking to myself, this is the vehicle. I've been standing at the bus station waiting for the one that says the street I'm going to, and all the other ones said different streets. And I remember standing there thinking, I got to get on this bus. And then I remember seeing you guys on videos thinking they're going to get all the people, so I better get in. So I got to get going because I didn't want to miss the thing. Now, let me just cap it with this. Apple used to be just the Macintosh, and they were really big, but they had about 8% of the market, and they certainly didn't dominate. People that loved Apple loved them, but technology wasn't ready for Apple to do what it wanted to do. You couldn't download songs in '94. There wasn't the internet. The iPhone, iTunes, iPad, Apple TV, all that stuff was Apple Wave 2, and now it's the biggest company in the world. Because Apple doesn't make phones. They make things to make your life better. The phone is what drives Apple. How many of you guys have those things? That was a very important reason. This multi-billion-dollar global company, this massive deal, is now ready to go. We are the most advanced total wellness company in the world. We have just dropped what you're going to see terminology of Niken 2.0. That is the world's first home career where you can build and feel like I was signing up in just another network marketing of the alphabet soup, Zingo, Zongo, Zingo, Zungo. I felt like I was the first of us. I really don't feel like we're part of the home business industry any more than Apple's a phone company. They use phones, they use the internet, but they're really not those things. We're part home business, we're part franchise, we're part major corporation, we're part wellness company, but we're all uniquely Nikken. When you throw in the 5 pillars of health, you know, I didn't really understand balance when I got started, William. What I knew was I wanted to feel good, have some cash, and do what I wanted to do and hang out with people that I liked. I guess that's called the 5 pillars of health. I like family. I like to have enough money to do what I want to do. I like to be healthy enough to enjoy it. I like to feel good like I'm doing something more than being an oxygen thief, working a job that I hate. And I want to know that I can spend time helping my family. Look, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you this. My boy is looking at Arizona and Notre Dame and all these colleges. I was the first Murphy ever to graduate from college, and I had to go to the Army to do that. We're in the Millionaires Club in Nikken. That's like this thing when you achieve a certain status. My boy's looking to go to any college he wants to go. I had to go sit in the Middle East for a year to go to college. My boy's not going to have to do that. And our baby in here has 2 at-home parents that are healthy in their 40s that can actually spend time with him. And when he goes to college, my sons were born Nikken millionaires before they ever came out the hatch. And what I love about Nikken, you want to talk about the 5 pillars of health? This has changed the trajectory of our family, and we want to do it for you. We're really good at this. We're not all retired entrepreneurs because we're bad at it. We're good at it. We're doing this call tonight because we want to help you be good at it too. So I'm passionate about it. I don't even know how to quit talking about it. I get lit up. I do. I get lit up about it because I love it. And I don't know if I love it because it gives me the life that I want, or I have the life that I want because I love it. That's like that Nicolas Cage, Did I Come to Vegas? You know, I don't know which one is first, the chicken or the egg, but I like both the chicken and the egg in this instance. And we sure would like you on the team because we're going to work real hard to help you get where we are and beyond. And that's what I got to say about that.
Thank you. And thank you both. Thank you both. And I kind of wanted to end this call by just giving my two-minute testimony on what it is for me. Is I didn't know at the time I filed this corporation of Worldwide Resources what my true passion in life was going to be. But I love to watch people create balance. And probably my favorite pillar is the mind, as many of you well know. But one of the things that I love about this company is that it's allowed the 3 of us to come together whenever really there's no financial remuneration in it for any of us. Like me helping Rick, I don't get paid. Me helping Mike, vice versa. We're all coming together to help each other, and all of you that are listening. So if you heard something tonight that you know really got your attention in regards to creating balance or becoming an entrepreneur yourself, please don't fear anything or anyone whenever you're going to make the committed decision to become an entrepreneur. I'll tell you that the best decision I ever made was coming up Sunday 21 years ago to start my company to attract Worldwide Resources. Today, from this home, millions and millions of dollars are generated really just from that one decision. And I just saw on here that it was a $50 decision. They charged me $50 to file that corporation. I think today it's $100, but not a lot of money. What really made the difference of the success that becoming from an entrepreneur was the amount of time and money that I spent in the way that I looked at things, the way that I looked at life, the way that I looked at business, the way that I looked at money. I had really big hangups on money. I remember my dad said it doesn't grow on trees. And I used to say, hey, yes, it does. It's made out of paper. Of course it grows on trees. It didn't go over well. But the fact was I didn't understand it. He didn't understand it. Now I have the ability to help them in their 80s, taking them to the doctor, helping them with their house payments, anything that I can do. I now have the ability to do it because of that one decision I made. So if you're feeling like you're attracted to something that was heard here on this Zoomcast, move forward with it. We are here to help you. The people that invited you to possibly listen to this are willing to help you. And it really just boils down to that one thing, a committed decision. We will help you gather all the information you need to make that educated and committed decision. But it's really as simple as taking that step and that leap of faith that we talked about earlier. So I'll just go back to Mike and then to Rick for your last comments. And thank you all very much for attending.
Well, we talk about you 2.0. The idea that there was a you before this moment, and then there's a you post that moment of the decision. And it's liberating when you make a decision to go after your dreams. we make decisions every day to support other people's dreams. And often the case is we let our dreams fall by the wayside. And it's a disservice to yourself, to your creator, and to the people who are looking up to you to be that emissary and that representation of what it looks like to go after something important in life. And there's nothing more important than what you were born to be. And so I love the idea of becoming the best that you can be. And this is a vehicle that enables us and empowers us to do that. And we're so well supported. So the concept of the 5 pillars is not just 5 words on a page. It's a living thing that we live every single day. And we're here to work with you to support you, those of you who would like to start this journey with us and create a new version of you, that 2.0 that you've been waiting to be. Nice.
I tell you, I heard the be all that you could be, the last time I heard that commercial, they started shooting at me. So I'm glad this one's been a little bit better way to be all I could be. I'll tell you that right now. But I'll tell you guys this. A lot of you guys in this call are wiser than I and know a lot more things that maybe that I don't know. But this is something that I've learned in my life. The only thing harder to get than a first chance is a second chance. And whether you're 28 and you think, man, I used to want to be something. Remember when you were 6, you wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut or some crazy thing. And then you fill out a mortgage or you fill out a car payment. Next thing you know, you're working for the car payment. And there's never a day when you say, I give up on being a fireman. But like every day you just make one decision to get through today. And before you know it, that 1,000 steps away from being a fireman. Like if you're 30 with 2 kids, how do you say, you know what, honey, I'm going back to college, so we're not going to have money for 2 years. It's impossible. And you're 45, you're 50, you hit the silver ceiling, you're 60 with no retirement, all these things. Or you're looking down the bottom of a bunch of pill bottles wondering, when am I going to get a second chance to back out of this mess? The thing I like about NECAN is whether you're 65 with no retirement or 25 or 20, you just want to go out and live the life you want to live. Maybe you're not going to walk the 1,000 steps towards the wrong life. Maybe you want to give something better to your kids, whatever it is. This is a second chance for everybody on this call to become as unequal as possible. This isn't you sign up, you connect to NECAN, you're instantly in balance. Connecting to NECAN gives you the ability to earn the life of balance, and our team's going to help you do it. This is not net miracle marketing. The middle word is work. And if you come into this and you join with us, look, when you go to work tomorrow, you're paying your electric bill. When you spend an hour building your NECAN business, you're building the exit door to having to worry about the electric bill. So that's the bottom line here. You're working for yourself, and it's something for you. And my business, Pathfinders RPM, says Rick and Paige Murphy, and by proxy, Cole and Kyler Murphy. I treasure it and I value it because even though I connected to NECAN for $50 or $60 or whatever, it is of limitless value to me because it's got my name on it, and everything we do is the honor and the life that my wife and I and our family wants to live. So our business is worth far beyond the value we can assign to it. Our business is indivisible with who we want to become, and we're partnered with NECAN because that's the bus that said the life that we wanted to live it was on it. And I suspect some of you out there would really love to say, you've been so beaten down for a while that maybe you're thinking, this is too good to be true. It doesn't mean it's not. There is hope for you. Why not you? We can do this. We can help you do it. This company can do it. Why not you? Take the second chance. In your lifetime, first chances are hard to come by. Second chances are more rare. Tonight, we're putting one in your hands. And if you reach your hand out back, we're going to reach out towards you, and we're going to help you get the life that you want. And that's the bottom line. And I'll tell you what, I would rather fall flat on my face, failing, trying to live the life that I want, than live and completely accomplish throwing my life away on my knees. And that's the bottom line here with NECAN is, don't you just want a chance to get up on your feet and say, I am, and I'm going to become? Don't you just want that one shot? Well, guess what? We got one for you, and we want you on this team because you're important. And that's what I got to say about that.
So make the committed decision, everybody. Welcome to Humans Being More. Welcome to NECAN, and welcome to entrepreneurship. It's been great speaking with you. This is William Todd from Bend, Oregon, to Rick Murphy in Austin, Texas, and Mike DiMuccio out in Toronto, Canada. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.